Poltergeist. Hi, my name's Jason. In 2012, I was accepted to the University of Wisconsin, so I moved from St. Paul to Madison. While attending school, I stayed with Dua and his family. Dua is my cousin. He's married with 2 kids, a boy and a girl. At the time, his sister-in-law, Bao, was also living there with her baby girl. There was a living room with 2 bedrooms and a full bath in the basement of their house. Bao and I stayed in each of the rooms downstairs while his family lived on the upper level. I've never met Bao prior to moving there, so she and I didn't talk much at first. But as time went on, we got more comfortable with one another. We were watching Family Feud on TV one night when she asked, "Have you experienced anything strange down here since moving in?" "Nope, can't say I have. Have you?" I asked, suddenly interested. "Yeah, sometimes I hear footsteps or scratches when I'm down here alone with the baby. Or like I'll see the shadow of a person just standing from the corners of my eyes. Then when I turn and look, it's gone. It was creeping me out, and I probably would have moved out had you not moved in," Bao said. "It's probably rodents or something," I thought. Instead, I said, "I wouldn't worry about it. Most times, ghosts and spirits just get bored and want to play." "That doesn't make it any less creepy," she said. A few weeks afterwards, I started hearing the same things Bao described to me previously, so I decided to ask Dua about it on his day off. Him and I rarely saw each other due to opposite schedules. We went fishing, and I brought it up. "Does your house have rodents?" I asked. "It did when we first moved in," Dua answered. "So no more?" I replied. "Nope, we called an exterminator and got rid of them." "Anyway, I was just curious because I kept hearing footsteps and scratching in the basement," I said. "It's probably just the wood creaking. That's how old houses are," replied Dua. With that, I didn't ask about it any further. I suspected it wasn't rats, but I merely wanted to confirm my suspicions. The hauntings, if that was what they were, continued on for a few weeks. They didn't happen every night. They seemed to start and stop randomly. At least for me they did. I wouldn't say I was scared. It was more annoying, if anything. While staying with Dua's family, I also helped around the house. One afternoon while I was mowing the yard, Dua's 7-year-old daughter Haley ran over to me, yelling and screaming. I could barely hear what she was saying since I had my earbuds on, listening to the World War Z audiobook. Good book, by the way. I didn't care for the movie, though. I stopped the mower and unplugged my earbuds. "Uncle Jason! Uncle Jason!" Haley yelled. "What's up, kiddo?" I asked. "Your friend says they wanted to talk to you," she said. "Friend?" I thought about it for a moment, then asked, "Is someone at the door? What did we say about answering the door for strangers?" "No, it's your friend from the basement." I was alarmed at this point, so I said, "Guess what? I have a surprise for you." "Ooh, I love surprises. What is it? What is it?" She looked at me with anticipation. "We're going to the park." "Yay! I love the park." She jumped up and down excitedly. "Go get your brother, and make sure you both have your shoes on. Also get 2 bottles of water, and meet me here." She ran back into the house as fast as the wind. I was almost done, so I finished the remaining part of the yard. Shortly afterwards, the kids came out, and we left for the park. The next Saturday, while everyone was attending a gathering at Dua's in-laws, I was in my room studying. It was 11:15 p.m. when I heard shuffling in the hallway, and furniture being dragged from the living room. I opened my door and peeked out. There was nothing there, so I came back to my desk. The disturbance started up again. I was mad at that point, so I said out loud in Hmong, "Ninyo ning, danyo da, jicholo tataku." Ghosts and humans live separately amongst themselves. Please don't bother me. Respect my space, and I will respect yours. Essentially, I told or should I say our roommate, to stay in their lane. The ruckus stopped for about 10 minutes, then started back up again. I could hear furniture constantly being dragged and knocked around. There were things falling and breaking. It was loud and getting closer to my room. I opened the door and my heart sank as all the hairs on my body stood on end. I've experienced hauntings before, but this was truly some poltergeist shit. Literally dragging and rocking its way toward me was the bookshelf from the living room. There was a trail littered with books and decor across the floor marking where it had been to where it was. I immediately shut the door and braced my back against it. The bookshelf dragged and knocked itself against the walls of the hallway to my door. It then started throwing itself against the door. The force was so great, I thought it would break the door. All right. I get the point. I know you want me gone. I'll leave. Just give me some time, and I'll be out of your hair, I yelled. There was a loud crash in the hallway. Then the commotion ceased straight away. I took a few minutes to compose myself before opening my door to survey the damage. The bookshelf was lying on its side in the hallway outside my room. In addition to the contents strewn about, there were scratches and dings along the walls and floor of the living room, hallway, and my bedroom door. Bao and I moved out shortly after I told everyone about the incident. I still visit my cousin from time to time, but I don't ever go into the basement anymore, nor have I asked about it. As far as I'm concerned, the less I know, the better. Bad vibes. A few years ago, my wife, Sarah, and I moved into a condo after selling our house. We did so in order to save money. The rent was 1/3 of what we were paying for the mortgage, and that was including utilities. The most visible downsides were the condo was in a sketchy part of town. It was dated and small. The rent was good, too good to pass up. Little did we know there was something else amiss. I should have known when we first saw the place. That day we met Betty after work so she could show us the condo. She was a little Caucasian lady in her 80s. After introductions, Betty opened the door to the unit after we walked into the pint-sized courtyard. The front door opened into the living room. It had the ugliest, copper-colored vinyl flooring I've ever seen. The flooring was the same throughout the unit. As I walked in, I was hit with a strange, unpleasant odor. It smelled like mildew or something similar. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Throughout the tour, I felt a sense of unease. It was like something telling me I should get out of there. I shook it off. Next to the living room was the dining area and kitchen. It was about the same size as the living room. The cabinets and appliances looked old and cheap, but at least they were clean. The washer and dryer were in the kitchen, on the far wall. They were stacked atop each other, next to the bathroom and bedroom. The door to the bedroom had a stained glass window. It looked like someone stole a door from a chapel and placed it there. I wasn't impressed, but I guess you get what you pay for. Sarah and I discussed it in the car during our drive home after the showing. "So, what do you think of the place?" I asked as I glanced at her reaction. Her face responded before she replied. She thought about it, then said, "I don't like it. But what is that strange smell?" "Yeah, I noticed that too," I responded. "You can't beat the price though." "We'll be saving a lot of money, so I guess it'll have to do. We'll bomb it for bugs and air it out by opening all the windows," Sarah said. I wasn't excited, but I said, "Sounds like a plan." We looked at over 15 apartments and condos. They were all highly priced, but more appealing by far. But because we wanted to save money, we opted for that condo. We had Betty investigate the smell and clean the unit, which she claimed was already done. During the meeting, she gave us some paperwork to fill out. We completed it and returned it to her a few days later. We looked at the condo again for a second time, and like the first time, it was equally as unimpressive. Nothing had changed. The odor was still there. I felt uneasy about the place, but hadn't voiced it to my wife. That day was really hot, so I wanted the AC on in order for us to complete and finalize the documents. There was actually a section on the forum where we'd have to see if there were issues with the unit. While Betty was still there, we asked if it was okay to have the AC on as we inspected the place. She gave the okay. I turned on the AC and adjusted the temperature, but it didn't work. I turned to Betty and said, "The AC doesn't work. You should get someone to fix it. We can't stay here if the AC isn't working." She walked over to the thermostat where I was standing and said, "It should be working." "You can take a look at it," I replied. She poked around with the buttons and switches, then said, "Can't you get it to work? You know how to work this thing? You people are supposed to be smart." Her snide remark irked me, but I kept my composure, so I said in the calmest way possible, "It's a thermostat. It doesn't take that much to operate. Not like it's rocket science." "I'll get someone to take a look at it," she said with a grin. We sweated through the inspection as she waited outside. My wife and I listed everything we found that needed work or was already in a less than desirable condition, which especially included the odor and AC. We then turned in our paperwork. The next day we were approved for the condo, so we paid our deposit and picked up our keys. Before we left, we checked the unit to see if they had repaired the AC, and they did. We slowly started moving our things into the place that week. We bombed it for bugs and cleaned it up. It didn't matter what Sarah and I did, we could not get rid of that odor. We used air freshener, candles, and vinegar, but nothing worked. It also didn't help that none of the windows wouldn't open, so we couldn't air out the place properly. The only thing we could do was leave the front door open the whole time. I started to doubt if we made the right decision going with the condo. That week, my wife couldn't come with me on one of the days due to a doctor's appointment, so I had to handle the move on my own. I was going back and forth between the condo and the car. Good thing we had reserved parking, so the trip wasn't too bad. It was quiet since none of the neighbors were out. On the 6th trip back to the condo, I heard shuffling from the kitchen to the bathroom or bedroom. I couldn't tell which, since the rooms were in the same direction. I stopped to listen, and that was when I heard someone murmuring. I tried to rationalize it, but it made no sense. For sure the noise had not come from outside. "Hello?" I called out. I waited for a moment and could hear a faint but angry shouting. Although I couldn't understand it, the voice sounded like it was coming from within my head. I ran out of there, shutting the door behind me. I wanted to take off, but I still had 2 more boxes in the back seat of my car. I didn't want to explain to Sarah why I hadn't moved the boxes into the condo due to it being possibly haunted, so I decided to drop off the remaining boxes. Between her and I, Sarah was more afraid of the paranormal than me. I, on the other hand, had actually experienced them multiple times. I didn't want to spook her, so I never told her about that incident. That weekend, we dropped off more things. As we were just about to leave, the lady next door came out to greet us. She was a middle-aged black woman. She had on a fuzzy pink bathrobe and slippers. The woman was cradling a dog. It was a mini pinscher. "Hey there, neighbor," she called out to us, smiling. We greeted her and introduced ourselves. The woman's name was Sharon. The 3 of us engaged in small talk for a bit about when we moved in, what we did for a living, and how the neighborhood was. Sarah and I found out she was a nurse who worked nights. We also found she was still fighting off a hangover and had just gotten home a few hours ago from the club. Somehow the conversation shifted from that to how we knew Betty. Needless to say, there was no love lost between them. Sharon said Betty was a racist and described her using the most flowery adjectives. I was inclined to believe Sharon that Betty was a racist due to our recent discussion regarding the air conditioner. Then the conversation got even more interesting. "You'll know someone died in that unit, right? There's some history behind it. Not sure what's going on, but there have been lots of people moving in and out of there. Y'all are like the 5th ones I've seen this year. The water heater also leaked and that whole unit was flooded," Sharon said. Sarah and I looked at each other. Then she said, "Really? That explains a lot because there was this weird odor we couldn't get rid of. But tell us about the person who died in there." I wouldn't doubt it if that smell was mold. But about the person who died there, it was a gay couple who lived there for years. One of the dudes left the other. After a bit, I never saw anyone come or go. Then something started to smell really bad. I couldn't tell where it was coming from, except it was close, so I called the popos. After that, more emergency vehicles arrived on the scene. I saw them take the man away in a body bag. I couldn't tell you if the death was accidental or suicide, cause them dudes were into some kinky shit, Sharon laughed. "Are you for real?" I asked. "Swear to God. You can even ask Betty." I was curious, so I asked, "Have you ever seen or heard anything strange?" "I ain't never seen nothing, but I do be hearing footsteps or doors shutting sometimes, and that was when the condo was empty. Whenever I start hearing things, I just say a prayer." With that, we thanked Sharon for her information and said our goodbyes. I spoke with Betty the following Monday and confirmed it. She was furious and demanded I tell her who gave me the information. I didn't say who it was, but her response made it clear who she suspected. We broke our lease and eventually found a place elsewhere. I finally told my wife about the encounter. Looking back, I should have trusted my instincts. If I did, we wouldn't have been in that predicament, but that's all water under the bridge now.